Does the Obama administration have a problem with the rule of law? Two recent incidents might make you think so. First, they trampled all over the contracts of Chrysler's creditors, and now they're threatening the state of California over its efforts to close a $42 billion budget gap. In February, the Democratic-controlled legislature there trimmed $74 million from a program that provides home health care for the elderly. But bowing to pressure from the SEIU, the powerful union representing health care workers, the Obama administration recently warned Governor Schwarzenegger that unless the cuts are restored, it may deny the state $6.8 billion in stimulus money. We're back with Dan Henninger and Kim Strassel, and also joining us is James Freeman, assistant editorial page editor of the Journal. James, can they get away with what they're trying to do in California from a legal basis?
They shouldn't be able to, but the Obama administration is pretty brazen on this. When California officials got on a conference call to discuss this with officials in Washington, part of our government, at the Health and Human Services Department, there was another group of people on the call. Lobbyists for a large union in California, several other officials from this union. Bizarre, to say the least.
Highly unusual. Arnold Schwarzenegger was talking to one of our writers, Steve Moore, this week, the governor, about the budget in California. He said it's extraordinary. He couldn't quite believe it.
Astounding. And you cannot possibly think that California is not in bad fiscal shape. You can't think that they don't need the $7 billion right now. They are looking at a $21 billion deficit in the upcoming fiscal year if voters, as expected, vote down a bunch of tax increases next week.
But the union would say, look, there's a stipulation in the stimulus bill that you cannot use this money and lay off workers. Well,
it's saying you can't put the money on local governments, right. But it doesn't. The state of California, and this plan is bipartisan. This is not just Arnold. This is not just Republicans in the legislature. Bipartisan says
it took several months for them to hash out this deal.
That's
it was very, very painstaking and painful.
It doesn't force the cuts on local government. What the plan does is it forces the cuts on the unions, and that's what the Obama administration seems unwilling to tolerate.
And the unions, the SEIU, Dan, very, very powerful. It gave one of the biggest fundraisers for President Obama during the campaign, I think to the tune of about $33 million. So this is a little payback, basically.
Well, it looks like payback, but it also looks like they're trampling the idea of federalism. I mean, we had segments on this program about California on the brink of bankruptcy.
And we'll have another one.
After this we will. But, you know, they worked this deal out. It was elected representatives of the people of California came to this agreement, and now Washington comes in on behalf of a union and says, sweep that off the table, give them their money back. What kind of system do we have here?
All right, Kim, let's talk a little bit about Chrysler and what happened to its secured creditors who are supposed to have priority under the bankruptcy code. You pay a premium to be a secured creditor. That's why they're called secured. You go to the front of the queue. And in this case, they seem not to have done as well in the Obama administration's proposal to the bankruptcy court as the union does. 30 cents or so on the dollar versus 50 cents for the UAW. What's going on here?
Well, it's the exact same thing. A different union this time, the United Auto Workers of America, but this is the exact same idea. Years and years of bankruptcy laws say that if you are a secured creditor, you come first in the line. Instead, the secured creditors were told to take a bath so that the UAW could emerge from all of this with not only the majority ownership of a company, but their own payback in terms of what was going to come back to equity holder or people in the company. So this is the exact same thing, and it isn't about law. It's about the political objectives of the Obama administration, in particular the very special interest, by the way, that they said that they weren't going to allow to run Washington.
Now, Treasury says in its defense that they have to keep the union happy because obviously no, this is a serious argument they make. Okay, on background, they will tell you we have to keep the union happy because we got to make Chrysler a going concern. The taxpayers are implicated. You, James Freeman, are paying your money to keep that good company going. You got to make sure that the health care benefits of the employees are taken care of. You got to make sure that the union are going to cooperate going forward. So look, the secured creditors aren't that vital. We had to take care of the union.
Well, the got to save Chrysler is exacting an enormous toll on our whole economy. I mean, think of what this is saying to investors around the world. No matter what the terms are, if you lend money to a favored company, a company that's heavily unionized in the United States, doesn't matter what the contract says, the government may intervene. I mean, this is just there's a reason that nobody else wants to give Chrysler debtor-in-possession financing other than the federal government.
So basically they're saying with this act, your property right can be shredded in the name of a higher or stronger political force. That's
exactly, and there's another way to put this that everyone's familiar with. The end justifies the means. Under this administration, I think the rule of law is simply one issue on the table, equal to social justice, the public good, and in their mind, the rule of law simply has to take a back seat under some and they regard that as a legitimate theory of operating the government.
What happens if they're vindicated in the bankruptcy court and the bankruptcy judge says, look, we agree with what the administration proposed?
Then we're living under a new system.
Look, this is so fundamental. It's Article 1 of the Constitution, uniform laws on bankruptcy. This is sending a message around the world that politicians are going to rewrite contracts. It's horrendous.
All right, James, thanks. Still ahead is Afghanistan.